Oh, hello everyone, and welcome to Take This TV, the television book club podcast, where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and we talk about them with our friends in the fandom, and that's you. Hello, I'm Carmen Askerdes, and I'm joined as always by the amazing Kimberly Woods. Hello.
Hello, hot potatoes.
This season we're watching Shogun.
And today we're on episode 6. It's called Ladies of the Willow World. Lady
Mm,
Ochiba returns to Osaka in order to accelerate the region's campaign against Toranaga.
man, Lady Ochiba, she's like I like I'm like kind of a fan of her. So like she's a great villain.
She's so good. Oh my gosh. And we start off this episode getting to learn a little bit more about baby Mariko and baby Ochiba.
Yes.
It's really cute. While their, dads are not getting along, uh, baby Mariko and baby Ochiba are comforting each other, having this friendship. We get to see some of Mariko training, which is pretty awesome. That's
It's
like
pretty
she's pretty
sick.
badass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we see even Toranaga's like, oh, she's pretty good.
Yeah. We see her dad arranging the marriage to Bunturo. And she's like, wait a second, this is a step down. What's happening? Why is my dad doing this to me?
So it seems like Buntaro's like family or house or whatever isn't they're not nobles. So Mariko was really like trying to figure out why her dad would even bother marrying her off to a
Mm-hmm.
house that wasn't like politically advantageous. And
Yeah.
then we learned from Toranaga that it was part of his plan because he
To
was
get her
planning
away
to
from the chaos.
yeah, man.
But also, the moment I love there too is we get this, you know, Mariko's having trouble accepting that she's about to go off with her new husband. And Ochiba is basically like, uh, let us choose to look away from what we cannot control. And then,
Mhm.
like, touches her hand. And I was like, is there a new ship being born here? Is this the Mariba
Ochiko?
ship?
Marima?
Or Mariba?
I love
Or
Marima.
Ochiko? Because I was
Uh,
like, what is going on? Does that mean, like, look away from this, like, feeling she can't control? Like, so I don't know.
oh,
Lady Ochiba might
man.
have had a little thing for her
Oh, that would've been
back in
sweet.
the day. I know. But in that world, how would that have ever manifested? So. But also the fact that Lady Ochiba, who back then was known as Ruri, um, is saying this thing, let's choose to look away from what we can't control, to modern day Lady Ochiba and the woman she's become, who is, like, trying to control everything and, who's basically like, "I will lash out at the eyes of fate." This is, like, completely different woman now.
Yeah, we do get that, like, villain monologue from her when she's talking to Ishido, and he asks, like, why does she hate Toranaga so much? And she's like, I grabbed Fate's chin and had it look at me so I could claw his eyes out. I was like, "Ah!" But I love it, though.
I love it. I think it's funny that even Toranaga, there's a moment in this episode where he is asking Mariko, like, "Why does Ochiba have it out for me? Like, what is it?"
What
And
happened to
then
turn her into
yeah,
that,
what
yeah.
happened to turn her into that? And her response is so interesting to me. Like, Mariko's like, "Well, you're a guy. Basically, you can wage war just because of pride or, whatever nonsense thing you want. But for women, like, in this world, it could be any number of things because the world's always against us." It kind of felt like she was saying.
That was powerful. Yeah, women are always at war. And it
Yeah, they're
seemed like
simply at war. Simply.
as wise as Toranaga is, it seems like there are a lot of things that even he doesn't understand. Um, and I do like those moments where like I feel like in those moments he kind of is like bringing Mariko up and like talking to her like an equal. And I
Mhm.
like those moments because it seems like out of all the people in his council, Mariko's like the one person that it seems like he's being honest with whenever they have
Mhm.
those private moments together. So um, I am definitely excited to see when Lady Ochiba and Mariko meet again.
Me too. I feel like they're really setting that up, like old friends, and now.
To rivals, to
nemesis. Yeah,
lovers,
to rival. Yeah.
lovers, and then the kiss.
Rival to lover. Pillow. Mariva pillow. So that'll be very interesting to see them like face to face. Because we also hear from Mariko that she hasn't seen her since she's become Lady Ochiba.
Oh, so the day where Mariko goes off to marry Bunturo was the last time they saw each other.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. So like your
Yeah.
childhood best friend like leaves and is now like, oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Trauma City.
Trauma City. They're setting us up. Speaking of setting us up, I love how Toranaga is always setting up our Marithorn.
Yeah.
In this episode, he basically commands Mariko to take Blackthorn to the brothel and have, a night out, and she must attend with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oof.
He needs to be relaxed.
Mariko's face during that, like, I was like, ooh, get behind that 8-fold fence, girl.
It was definitely like, I feel like Toranaga's always like pushing people's buttons.
Yeah.
Because Bunturo comes to him and is like, Mariko, I just can't handle it anymore. And Toranaga's like, just divorce her. And he's like, but I can't. And so he sends Bunturo away. And that's when he orders Mariko to take Blackthorn to the brothel. And I'm like, is he trying to set them up? Is he matchmaking?
Like he was. I feel like he's like, go face to face with your feelings, see if you get jealous when he's there, and maybe. But also, like, we hear from Gin, who's the head of the brothel, which she references as the Willow World. Basically, that's where we get the title of this episode, Ladies of the Willow World. That basically it's a place where like anything can happen, like there's discretion and and she hears that she like alludes to Mariko that she hears that she's never separated from the Anjin. And so it's like she kind of knows what's up.
Yeah. Everybody knows. Like
everybody knows by the time we get to the brothel. What's her name? Kiku?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the number one? Yeah, Lady Kiku.
Yeah.
The number one lady.
Who's been bet. So before we were confused about her relationship to everybody. And so we know that now she's the number one courtesan. And
in the province.
But she and Omi kind of have like a thing on the side. Because Omi is a child and it probably is just getting absolutely played by Kiku. So
yeah. I'm like, what do you expect, Omi?
Yeah.
It's her job. He's jealous because she's gonna go have
He's like, how could you with the barbarian? Yeah.
It's work, honey.
All his feelings are hurt.
I also love the scene where we have Mariko, who is like, I will personally negotiate the deal with Gin.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bargaining.
Mariko is like so like prop. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I you misunderstood. I didn't want to like buy out the whole brothel.
Yeah, I don't want all of the tea houses.
Yeah.
And Gin's like, yeah, but we just had this earthquake, and Lady Kiku has lost her kosodes, which I looked it up, and I guess it's basically like kimonos. It's a predecessor of the kimono.
Oh, okay.
This type of clothing. So she's when she's like doing the bargain, that's what she's trying to throw in there. That Lady Kiku needs some more kosodes.
Yeah, I love the negotiation because it's like, these high profile clients come to you and of course it's like, well, it's gonna cost you. It's good. Hey, whoa, what are you gonna do? Earthquakes.
I think one of my favorite scenes in this episode, though, Carmen, was the scene at the brothel. When Mariko is translating for Lady Kiku, who has clearly seen what's happening between them, who is like being a mentor to this other woman who comes in and is like trading out the tea.
Yeah.
And she points out like that absence can teach us more than, presence.
Yeah. I was like, a metaphor.
I was like, yeah. And then she literally goes to sit like slightly behind Mariko so that Anjin has to like crane his neck to look like at Mariko. because she's like eclipsed by, she's being like, Lady Kiku's being eclipsed by Mariko. And as the scene continues, it's like a full eclipse where all he sees is Mariko. And Mariko goes from speaking in third person and translating and saying like, she says blah, 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 to then saying like, I
picked up on that
oh
too.
my God, this is so good. Get out of here.
The longing.
Yeah. The cinematography, this choice.
And then there's a little moment when like Mariko's leaving and Blackthorn brushes her hand. And I was like, oh man. It reminds me of that scene in Pride and Prejudice when like the guy's like flexing his hand. And I was just like, the sexual tension is palpable.
The sexual tension. The lines. Oh my. I offer you release and safety to create one perfect moment that you wish to inhabit completely. Settle your eyes on what you desire. My unclothed form. Like Mariko was saying this, and his face, Anjin's face of like, oh my God. Like, the inner struggle of like, I want you so badly, but
yeah, it was really
it's so good.
Really good. I feel like Kiku has a moment where she says like, when I see a sister suffering, I can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we haven't spent much time with this character, but I feel like she's being genuine of like, she could tell Mariko has a thing for Blackthorn and is like trying to like help in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, at least it seemed that way. But she is with Omi, so
I know.
And we did
and
see
she
them
wants
scheming,
Omi
so.
to prosper. I know. I was a little bit worried. And Mariko coming in, even though Gin was telling her like discretion is of the utmost importance, it was like, everybody's watching us. Blackthorn, don't mess up. Then like everybody's looking at what we do. So she wasn't falling for it, but I thought it might be one of those things where they were trying to get them alone to like maybe see what would happen and then maybe use that to their advantage. But like so far it hasn't turned into that.
So far. We'll see what happens.
So far. And also the interesting thing to me too was Blackthorn's like struggling with his emotions for Mariko in that moment. And then Mariko, this like offer you release and safety, like she's flashing back to her past in this moment.
Yeah. She was definitely triggered.
I found that interesting. Like suddenly, like her walls coming down, maybe in that moment for a little bit, allowed for her to like be overwhelmed by her memories.
Yeah, it's like it feels like all of these things were kind of at the gates of her fences, and when she's kind of as she's getting closer to Blackthorn, she's like letting more of her emotions and true self come out, and we kind of start to see how she changes, even with how she's translating when they're talking to Toranaga and when they're talking to Kiku, and Blackthorn mentions something about the prostitutes back in London, and then Mariko says he prefers the women of his land. And I was like, that's not what he said.
That's not what he said. I also liked afterward, because we have this moment where like basically Lady Cuckoo's like, okay, Mariko, do you want to come with, Blackthorn? You guys can have some space here, discretion.
Oh, is that what she was offering? I misunderstood that.
I felt like everybody was kind of like suggesting it as a place where they could like, because they knew something was going on. And so I didn't think necessarily it meant like, you two just go there. I thought, I don't know. It might meant like, I know both of you are into each other, so like, why don't you both come over here?
That's okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. But Mariko was just like, no, I'm leaving. You go ahead to Blackthorn. And then we cut to the next morning and she's already back at the house, which I wasn't expecting. I thought she would have to like wait and we'd have to see the struggle of her like hearing or imagining whatever was happening in the other room.
Looks like she fully left.
Yeah, she fully I guess she walked home alone. I don't know. But the translation thing comes back in again into effect the next day because Blackthorn is thanking Lady Kiku for last night, and then Lady Kiku says something to Blackthorn like, please come again, I'll be counting my breaths until that moment. Yeah. And like Mariko is just like does not translate it. She says thank you, or she says you're welcome.
Yeah. I was like, oh, You
Yeah.
jealous?
Yeah. So that was funny.
That was a cute moment.
Yeah.
I have a theory that Blackthorn didn't actually do anything that night and that he, was just playing the role because Mariko asked him not to make a scene. What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't
You
know.
think he's just a true gentleman?
Well, I don't know about
Do you think he
that.
just what do you think they did then?
I think that he refused to sleep with
Had some
her,
more
and that
sake?
yeah, I think he probably just had sake and maybe just slept alone, or maybe they slept in the same room but like didn't weren't intimate with each other. And
Maybe she
Blackthorn,
just talked to him.
yeah, maybe they just talk. Well, I guess they can't really, but maybe they
Oh, that's
communicate.
true. I guess they
Yeah.
Yeah, that kinda limits it a little bit.
Because he mentioned that he's not into casual buggery, so I'm like, I feel like he's fully in love with Mariko, and I don't think he would do it, but we'll see.
I agree he's fully in love with Mariko. But I don't know. I don't know if he did or didn't. So we will see. We will see if we find out.
Yeah. Oh, and then we do get a scene early on with Yabushige, which I was cracking up about when he's talking to Omi. Because Lord Toranaga awards Blackthorn control of the Cannon Regiment for saving his life. And he also gives Blackthorn a fiefdom. Um,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh my god.
Omi is
I was
really
waiting for him
upset.
to be
What were you going to say?
I was just like I kept cracking up at Blackthorn being kind of pouty and thinking of him saying like, "I don't want any more generous cuckoos."
So Omi's like freaking out and he's like, what are we gonna do about this uncle to Yabushige? And Yabushige is like, bro, we're about to go to war. Like, I'm trying to survive. And then he of course wants to do another draft of his will. And it was so funny because it's like Yabushige is like, he's like, any minute now I'm gonna die. I need to have my will figured out.
Constantly updating that will.
Yeah, his whole story is about him trying not to die.
Oh
But
my
Blackthorn
gosh.
does try to rescind the gifts from Lord Toranaga and say that he just wants to leave Japan and get his ships and his men back. But Lord Toranaga tells him no. And then he confides in Mariko that Blackthorn's never going to get his ships back. So we kind of get an idea that like Toranaga has no intention of letting Blackthorn leave.
Nah, he's in it. He's in it now.
He's Japanese now.
We get the first introduction of Operation Crimson Sky here in this episode, which is wild.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because Hiramasu shows up and like when Hiramasu shows up, I'm like, dude, why are you just blabbing your mouth off about the plans? I thought Toranaga was gonna be like, hey, why don't come inside and let's talk just me and you? But he's just like telling everybody, and Yabushige is overhearing the plan. And so I'm like, is this a moment where Crimson Sky is like a fake plan and Toranaga has a different plan? Because he knows that Yabushige is like feeding Ishido information. So I was a little confused as to like, especially by the end when he's like, I guess we have to do Crimson Sky, and everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, what is Toranaga planning? Because he knows that Yabushige is just gonna tell Ishido his plan. So I don't know.
I feel like Toranaga is constantly at war with himself about being shogun and that idea.
Yeah.
Like, and also coming from the family that he came from. Because which is like, what is it called? Marinara? I can't remember the name of
Minara
it.
or something
Family
like
name.
that. Something like that. Yeah.
Minoware or something like that. Something like that. Anyway, whatever family he came from that like the previous shogun was from, I feel like he's like face to face with that, like battling like that idea.
He doesn't
And so
want
here at first, Crimson Sky, he's like, no, give me another way.
Yeah. Any other way but death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, we're almost out of time, but I also wanted to mention real quick that like Ishido kills what's his face? Who's the other a person the regent?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Sugiyama.
Yeah, Sugiyama. Because Sugiyama votes no if they find a person to essentially be a fall guy. This is going to do whatever they say, so they can replace Toranaga on the Council of Regents and vote to have him impeached, so they can execute him. But then Sugiyama votes no, and As soon as he did, he was like, "I'm the only one here defending the realm," and I was like, "That's a dead man walking right there." And sure enough, Ishido
Yep.
murked him. So
Sure enough, those darn bandits.
those bandits, they're
They'll get ya.
everywhere. They'll get you.
I want to touch upon like Lady Ochiba a little bit too, because we really do learn more about her character in this episode. Um, she's watching a play, and then she's getting some feedback from what is her, the former Taiko's, the dead Taiko's wife, that she
Mhm.
should be partnering with Toranaga instead of Ishido,
Yeah, because she
which of
says,
course like she doesn't take. But
Mhm.
we cut back to these scenes where they're first meeting each other when young Ochiba comes, um, and she learns that she must give the Taiko an heir, because so
Mhm.
far nobody's been able to give him an heir. And then we see these scenes of like her getting drugged. I'm like, what is happening? Like close up on her pupil being dilated, and like what is going on? Um, and all of that stuff that she had to go through. But also this the writing here once again is like spot on and so good. She basically tells her at first that, let me find my little notes. Where is it? She basically talks about how women are pebbles, but then this is kind of where Ochiba gets her idea from, that a woman may lose everything she's had, but she may also take it back.
Mhm.
That she must stare without fear into the cruel eyes of fate and make herself seen.
That's
And so
powerful.
this is like, yeah, like, oh my god, this is where she gets this like seed of the villain arc.
I love Lady Ochiba. To me, is the kind of villain that's like, I went to hell and killed the devil, and now I rule hell.
Yeah.
She's like so intense, and I love it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that like seeing sort of what she's gone through, and I think we get insight into like how it's changed her into the person that she is now. And there's like a little part. I love our heroes. Don't get me wrong, but there's just like a little part of me that's like, but what happens if she gets her revenge though?
I think it's funny that she's like one of the only people able who like she's like, I see Toranaga's like secret heart. I don't know, like she knows
Mm.
how smart he is. She doesn't want to partner with him. She wants to battle with him, but she sees and acknowledges how clever he is.
Oh, that's right. Because she was saying that like the person who set up or the person whose fault it was that Mariko's father was killed was Toranaga, because he
Mhm.
planted those ideas in her father's head and like kind of orchestrated
Exactly.
everything. And that's why she was saying that she knows his true heart, that like everybody's a pawn to him. And I was
Mhm.
like, dang, like she called him out, and it like,
Yeah.
and I feel like, I'm like, well, she's not wrong.
Yeah, she's not wrong, and that might be what he's scared of. I mean, he's good at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's good at all of this stuff. He might be too good. He might be scared of letting power get to his head if he was Shogun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see what happens. I love this show. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too, it's so good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave us a comment or a review. We're at Take This TV on Instagram and TikTok. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining, and remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.